Well, like most of you, I was not at the grand opening of the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma this month. Wish I was. But I came down with COVID. Anyway, one of the things that happened there was that legendary singer-songwriter Patti Smith did a version of Boots of Spanish Leather. I certainly would have loved to have heard that, but anyway, that's the song we're tackling. It is the 7th song on the album The Times Are Changin', of course, and I've read everything I could about the song getting ready to make this video, and I think I'm going to be the first person to point this out, I swear. This is Bob Dylan's first love song. Now, that depends on how you want to classify love songs, but this being his second LP, let's look back. One Too Many Mornings, breakup song, kind of an obsession of his. And he only had one other LP before that, right? The Free Will and Bob Dylan, so let's look there. Don't Think Twice It's Alright, breakup song again. Girl from the North Country, that's a little bit closer to a love song, but it's long after the fact, after the relationship is dead and buried, so I'm going to say no, that doesn't count as a love song. And then that's really it. Of course, he did have one other record, but I'm counting, records of original songs. His very first album, Bob Dylan, of course, was traditional folk covers, except for one original song, which was a love letter of sorts to Woody Guthrie. Song to Woody, but no, we're not going to count that as a love song. By the way, this takes us back to Tulsa, Oklahoma and the Bob Dylan Center, because we all know the only reason he let the University of Tulsa have all of his archives and materials is because that's where the Woody Guthrie Center is. But let's get back to the song. Yeah, in my opinion, his first love song. Now, the song ends, spoiler alert, with yet another breakup, or something pretty close to it. By the way, I'm going to use pictures like this that I took in Spain a few years ago as interstitials during this video. But despite the ending, this song does begin and throughout deal with two people who are in a relationship. It's a gorgeous, masterful, moving song, but also a fine example of his just magical ability to transform different kinds of input into something new. And when it comes to that, there are two components that he incorporated into the creation of this song. One is the real-life relationship strain that he was experiencing with this woman here. She is, of course, Suze Rodolo, Dylan's girlfriend in Greenwich Village in his early days, who helped make this epic album cover. And she was much more than that, though. It seems she was an important influence in introducing new concepts to the freshly arrived Dylan. But she didn't appreciate how Dylan's, quickly rising star was overshadowing basically everything, and she ended up going to Italy. And just for fun, here is the 2001 movie Vanilla Sky's recreation of that moment with Tom Cruise and Penelope Cruz. But anyway, Bob Dylan did not appreciate that she chose to go away. Now, they hadn't broken up, she just went overseas, in an attempt to kind of reassert herself and make sure she was more than just Bob Dylan's girlfriend. Luckily for us, Dylan took his hard feelings about this and somehow in his mind grafted it to a traditional song that goes by the title Raggle Taggle Gypsy, Gypsy Davy, Blackjack Davy, etc. This was a Scottish border ballad whose roots probably go back to a historic incident from the 1600s. Regardless, the story is that a lord's lady runs off with a gypsy. Quite scandalous stuff, and whether or not there's a historical connection, this ballad became very popular, one writer saying close to Barbara Allen territory. Here's a song then that had a very deep history when Dylan kind of tapped into it, and it's not surprising at all that he knew of this song, not just because he loved old songs and ballads, but because Woody Guthrie covered it. So back to him, and look at this lyric up top from his version. Take off your buckskin gloves, made of Spanish leather. And this seems to be how the song came about. Remember that Dylan's girlfriend wasn't leaving him in terms of like breaking up with him, and she certainly wasn't running away with another man, but this old ballad still was about, right, the female in the relationship leaving. And it, or at least one of its many versions, had this phrase which obviously caught Dylan's fancy, Spanish leather. And there you go. Now, there's a few people who postulate that the fact that there was a Inquisition torture device called the Spanish boot plays into this song. I don't buy that, just don't see any evidence for it. I think that's a coincidence. Back to Gypsy Davy, or any of its many, many versions, in that song, the Lord and the Lady have a dialogue. There's a back and forth between them. That's clearly something Dylan was inspired by as well. Because in this song, Dylan and his lover, the characters in the song, stand-ins for him and Suze, are having a back and forth via letters, written correspondence. That's a very old world thing, as is the fact that Dylan's girlfriend in the song is sailing away. She's not taking an airplane. This seems an interesting way to tie his contemporary song, contemporary at the time, to the ancient ballad or ballads he was kind of basing this whole thing on. And as great as those old ballads are, I don't think there's any way to objectively deny that Dylan really took things up a level with his song creation. He creates an intimate and heartbreaking story. So let's get into it. One of the great things about it is that, like so much of Dylan's work, it's challenging. You have to do some work if you're actually going to appreciate the song. You can't just listen to it once, a couple times, and just feel like, oh, okay, I get it. In a preview of things to come in his career, the narration is something you have to really keep your eye on. Notice this first verse is from the female perspective, from the girlfriend's perspective. Oh, I'm sailing away, my own true love, I'm sailing away in the morning. Is there something I can send you from across the sea, from the place that I'll be landing? Any listener is naturally going to assume we are hearing the narrator talking to his lover in that first verse, but that's not the case. And we have to kind of work that out for ourselves as the song goes along. No, there's nothing you can send me, my own true love. There's nothing I wish to be owning. Just carry yourself back to me unspoiled from across that lonesome ocean. This is an interesting inversion because in a lot of traditional songs, it would be the man, of course, who's heading out to sea. And the woman who is left at home wondering if he'll be faithful. And that gender role reversal continues here because she asks, well, do you want me to buy you something pretty? I'll just read the next one. Oh, but I just thought you might want something fine, made of silver or of golden, either from the mountains of Madrid or from the coast of Barcelona. How interesting is that? And, I don't think anyone's ever pointed this out before. And the silver and gold, of course, is kind of an ancient songwriting tradition, appears in a lot of old songs that Dylan loves. But being a history nerd, I have to point out that this also touches on Spanish history. Spain was very rich in minerals, and that's what helped make Carthage and then later Rome rich, especially their silver mines. Anyway. Dylan continues to show tremendous vulnerability as a songwriter, putting himself in the position of the left-behind, lovesick, kind of inconsolable party. Oh, but if I had the stars from the darkest night and the diamonds from the deepest ocean, I'd forsake them all for your sweet kiss. That's all I'm wishing to be ownin'. Let's talk about some of the wordplay and phonetic work going on here. Notice the sailin', ownin', golden, that sound. That is the sound that powers the entire song. It's line 2 and 4 of these 4-line stanzas that always end with that sound, and that propels us through the first 5 stanzas, so more than half the song. There's 9. Here's the last of those 5 quickly. That I might be gone a long time, and it's only that I'm asking. There's that sound again. Is there something I can send you to remember me by, to make your time more easy passin'? Of course, we have internal rhyming, that I might be gone a long time. Gone along, right? Earlier than that, we have diamonds from the deepest ocean, so alliteration. Look how many times the S sound is used in this one line. I'd forsake them all for your sweet kiss. Another internal rhyme with the line, for that's all I'm wishin' to be ownin'. Wishin', ownin'. Probably Dylan's signature move, rhyming within a single line instead of just at the end of lines. Mountains of Madrid, alliteration, right? Either from the mountains of Madrid or from the coast of Barcelona. Mountains, Madrid, coast, Barcelona. The M sound ties the first pair together, the O sound ties the second pair together. And it's Dylan, so you could just keep going and going. One more example of just this kind of thing overall. Oh, but if I had the stars from the darkest night. Star, dar, you have that sound connecting those two parts of the line. And this is not a phonetic thing at all, but I love the line, to make your time more easy passin'. It's implied that this is tough for him, but not for her, right? She's telling him, here, I'll send you a present to make your time more easy. Every stanza in the song is 4 lines, by the way, and there's 9, like I mentioned, so obviously the song is 36 lines, very evenly broken out. And now we hit an important juncture in the song, a turning point, because this conversation, this back and forth conversation through letters, is ending. Dylan responds, "Oh, how can you ask me again? It only brings me sorrow. The same thing I want from you today, I would want again tomorrow." The signature sound from lines 2 and 4 are no longer present, right? Sorrow tomorrow. It's no longer the ocean, onin, askin, etc. It's just so subtle, probably not even consciously done, but that's the turning point in the song as opposed to, something super obvious, traditional, normal songwriting, like, oh, here's the bridge. Most songs, even great songs, they hit you over the head with the turning point. Not so here, not musically either, and not in terms of time. There's not some big pause to at least help imply what's happening here. Instead, in the next part, you should notice the major change in narrative structure. I got a letter on a lonesome day. It was from her ship a-sailin'. So now Dylan is talking to us for the first time, saying, I don't know when I'll be coming back again. It depends on how I'm a-feelin'. Let's jump back to the previous stanza just to highlight that sorrow tomorrow is a great rhyme. It only brings me sorrow. The same thing I would want from you today, I would want again tomorrow. Sorrow tomorrow. That's exactly what's going to happen with this relationship. It's what's going to happen to the narrator. And then back to the stanza that we're on. I love, I don't know when I'll be coming back again. Internal rhyme, obviously. It depends on how I'm a-feelin'. So this is not a breakup. It's this weird middle ground. And now we'll switch from Spain to Dylan boating pics as our interstitials. And now the back and forth between Dylan and his lover resumes, because now, after talking to us in this next stanza, he's responding to her. Well, if you, my love, must think that away, I'm sure your mind is roamin'. I'm sure your heart is not with me, but with the country to where you're goin'. There's great use of adjectives throughout the song, too. I got a letter on a lonesome day. Well, yeah, Dylan is the one who's alone, so it's a lonesome day. Not an adjective, but here's a great use of a word. Well, if you, my love, must think that away. Dylan, of course, loves that kind of old convention, like the times they are a-changin'. But here, instead of you must think that way, I think it's safe to say that's what a typical songwriter would have said, but instead Dylan sticks in that extra a, away. And there's an implied version of the word away, right? He said the word away without saying it, is what I'm trying to get across. And that's perfect because she has, of course, gone away. As Professor Christopher Ricks has noted, Dylan's songs, a lot of them have this way of existing kind of outside of time or seeming like they're from a bygone era. This is definitely one of those. We talked before about how she is sailing away, and that in and of itself is old-fashioned, but notice these letters going back and forth, they're being sent to and from her ship while it's in mid-voyage. That's an extremely old-world thing. On some long voyage, maybe you'd send a letter to somebody back home at a port of call, or one ship would meet another at sea and say, oh, you're going back that way? Here, can you take these messages for us? And that's an enjoyable aspect of the song, but the best part is the emotion, and we haven't touched on that much. I mean, you've seen it in the words, but you, of course, have to hear the song for yourself. And, so much talk about Dylan's voice and this and that, how it's unconventional, but he's fantastic on this song. Like, his emoting is really expressive, really fantastic, and, he's inhabiting the character of the song, which is himself in a way. The tone he elicits is just right because it's not this kind of like overly mawkish lamentation. It's that middle ground that I talked about before. Like, he's sad, but okay, we still are together. We still might end up together again. Okay, well, I'll just sit here pining away. It's got this helpless air. Remember now that after the turning point in the song, which was the third to last stanza, we got back to the letter writing. So that's where he's telling her, if you must think that away, etc., etc. Now, again, something else to notice. It's just there on the table for us, but we have to notice it. For the first time in the song, it's not a back and forth in letters. He addresses her in the second to last stanza and in the last stanza. So take heed of the western wind, take heed of the stormy weather. And yes, there's something you can send back to me, Spanish boots of Spanish leather. The fact that at the top of that stanza he's addressing her twice in a row, that is your very subtle clue that the song is ending. Now when he gets to the end of the stanza, vocally, he definitely implies that as he stretches out the word Spanish. Before that happens though, the second to last line also clues you in because something has fundamentally changed. When he kind of relents, he gives in. Fine, you can send me a present if that makes you feel less guilty. It might be on purpose that he chooses a terrestrial item. She's sailing away, right? And boots, you walk on the earth with them. And they're also a symbol of traveling, one that Dylan definitely used in this part of his career. So is this an indication that he's walking away knowing that it's basically over? She's just kind of keeping him on a thread because she doesn't want to go ahead and admit she's not coming back. Or that when she does come back, she really won't be coming back to him. It's a minor touch, but I love that the title of the song only appears at the very end, right? The very last line. And the way it punctuates and ends the song is aided by the fact that this is the first time this rhyme is used, the ether, or sound, weather, leather. In my opinion, that makes it hit harder. It's just that finer level of songcraft that I talk about so much when it comes to Dylan. So anyway, that is the song. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't know how anybody could hear it and not be blown away by it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks.